Hi, Hamish Conway here, and welcome to TACOS Tuesday, episode 17. And with me today, as always, is Sebastian Hargraves. Welcome, Seb.
Thanks for having me, Hamish.
Excellent. Now, as you'll see from the topic of the show, this is like our halftime show in Australia with the longer deal event. It's 14 days for Black Friday. And so it's technically not even a halftime show. It's like the first 4 days is off the clean data that we've got that we're going to share with you today. And it's a bit like, being from New Zealand, we'll be watching the rugby, beating Australia in the rugby, looking at the stats, all the key metrics that they look at. Or if you live in Melbourne, you've got all the AFL stats there. So it's a bit like that. Okay. So I kind of think of this as the halftime footy show. And we're going to share some aggregated data. Now, we were tossing up some different ways of doing this, but we thought the cleanest way was to just look at category search terms. So this data we're going to show you eliminates any branded search because that can just skew the data and make it not necessarily as meaningful. So we want this to be as useful for as many people as possible. So if you don't have a big brand, then this data is the category search term data just from sponsored products, right, Seb? Or across brand?
It includes sponsored brand as well.
Okay, right. Yep. But just the category search terms. Cool. So that just gives you some context with, and so this is with our Australian client base here, okay, and for those that we've included here, but to give you some meaningful data. Now, back in episode 13, and also episode 14 to a degree, but in episode 13, we went through some holiday season advertising strategies. And Seb was making some predictions there about how things would flow from the first day through, after that, what would be happening to click costs, what would be happening to click-through rates and conversion rates. And so we're going to share with you how those predictions went. And I think, Seb, you were pretty much on the money. But if you, after this here, you might want to go back and re-listen to those there, particularly about what to be doing as we march on through this holiday season period and getting towards the end, which will have some different behaviors from shoppers coming up as well. Anyway, so before we get back out on the pitch, let's do this. Let's do this, Seb. So I will share my screen, and so if you're listening, we'll have this in the show notes, and you will. Yeah, we just thought it would be easy enough to put these up here. Share that, and here we go. All right, Seb. So tell me what. Let's look at this first part here, impressions. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I might back it up a little bit and just give some context around the data and what we spoke about in those episodes. So, firstly, what we mentioned in the few episodes ago is that we expected that the first few days would be the strongest, and then after that it would sort of taper away with conversion rate dropping, the traffic sort of dropping off, and that was because we'd viewed past events like Prime, and we saw that there's two types of buyer psychology. That kind of buyer psychology that wants to get in early, get their deals done, want to make sure that they're going to be available, so that they get into that early piece. They're the ones that would line up for a Boxing Day sale, etc. And then the second buyer psychology was the people that don't want to miss out. So, that fear of missing out, etc. So that we're going to talk to a little bit of that as well. The other piece to note here is this is off a large data set, lots of different price points in regards to products that are inside this data set. So that's just something to note when if you're using this for any kind of comparison, because if your product is $100 versus $10, they're going to be very different, obviously, click-through rates and conversion rates as well. So
Excellent.
with that being said, let's get into the key takeaways. So the first thing to note here, and the top chart on the screen here, is impressions. So as we expected, the first day of the event was November 19th, and impressions soared on that first day. And then it continued to decline from that November 19th day. So that day was about 316 for our data, up on a normal day, from what our normal impressions are.
16%. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Increase. Mm-hmm. Yep. So, and then with that, our average click-through rate outside of a deal event is roughly about 1.3%. Here, I think it shows, is that 0.92?
Yeah, it was 0.92, 1.08, 1.13.
1.13. So 1.13. So The click-through rate was slightly down, and not slightly. That's decent down by a decent amount. But the traffic was way up.
Yeah. So talk to me about the lower click-through rate. Just to help people understand, why would that be lower?
Yeah, so generally click-through rate is lower because people are just searching a little bit more. So the click-through rate kind of tells you how deep someone is willing to search for a particular item. So for example, the higher click-through rate means that, depending on how high it is, it could mean that everyone is just buying from the first results that they see. The click-through rate, when it's like a lower click-through rate, generally means they're willing to search a little bit further. They might be willing to go midway down the page or scroll to page 2 or things like that. As a result. So the lower click-through rate tells us that people were more were looking for those deals, and they were willing to look around a little bit more than outside of a typical deal event. And why that's important is some brands don't think that the deal badge piece makes a difference. The deal badge that you show on your listing when you've got a Prime deal on, but it absolutely does. And this data kind of helps validate that theory for us.
Right. Yeah. So people are looking, on that initial glance or initial impression, looking for the deals. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Good context. What else? What other key takeaways here?
So the second one was clicks. So clicks were up by 153% from our base, our average, rough average, while the CPC dropped. So clicks were up really high on that November 19th, and you can see they basically followed impressions, which is why the click-through rate's relatively steady. It doesn't drop significantly because clicks just followed impressions kind of down.
Yeah.
And cost per click, which is on here as well, went down as well. So basically what that's saying is that the click costs were basically the same for November 19th. I can't quite see that, but I think it's about $1.24.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So $1.24 on the first day. So what's interesting there is that the clicks cost less on the first day. And then the second day, they actually cost as much, basically the same, as they did on the first day. Even though the traffic was less there. And so basically that's just telling you the intent is starting to drop off a little bit. The cost to get that traffic is still quite high. But the intent of people coming through and clicking is, starting to sort of wane a little bit, on that second day. And then it follows down. You can see from day 3, it actually gets a fair bit cheaper, $1.18 cost per click. And then November 22nd, the cost per click drops down to $1.12, which is, a significance, over the large data set we have, that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
From $1.12
so you go from $1 to 25% increase pretty much up to $1.24. And then now you're looking at a 12% increase there. So so that with higher click costs, how should people be, dealing with that? What's the takeaway from there?
So this is where having your objectives set up is really important, and following that plan, because you want to react to the data, but you want to have clear goals on sort of what you're trying to achieve and where you're going to have the biggest impact. If you're outperforming the average, in general, you're doing fine. You don't need to worry about overreacting or anything. But if you see on historical data and now this data that the second days are and you're trying to maximize for profitability, that second day you might decide to cut your advertising costs by a lot more in the future, for example. So that's a key takeaway that you can do. The other thing to note is that as the traffic declines now, you definitely want to adjust your advertising spend to be in line with those reductions in traffic.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. All right. So that's there, and then we've got orders and conversion rate.
Yep. So conversion rate was up. So in particular, this example, you can see the November 19th was up quite a bit. So it was like 14%, 14 point something percent there. Nearly 15%.
Yeah.
And you can see a lot of the other drops from a percentage point of view are pretty small, as in the click-through rate went up slightly, the CPC went down slightly, but the conversion rate from day 1 to day 2 is a pretty decent drop. Nearly 15% down to 11.9, so nearly 12% roughly from the conversion rate, and that's a big drop there as well. So that's a good indication of what we've sort of said. That first day is going to be your best day, and that's what the data is reflecting. Here. Mm-hmm. And then the conversion rate kind of continuously drops off. Interestingly, on the Friday before the weekend, it did kick up a little bit, for the weekend. So that's one thing to take into consideration. If you've got these deal events and they fall on weekends, depending on what your product is, a lot of the time the weekends are, better converting times, depending on what your product is. If it's a vitamin or something like that, probably not. Most people do their vitamin shopping during the week when they do their grocery shopping or things like that. But if your product is something that someone would buy while browsing on a weekend, or, when they're doing stuff around the house, for example, and they're like, oh, that's right, I needed a XYZ, then weekend shopping tends to be, a better conversion rate. So that's just one thing to note. You might want to drop your bids and your budgets through that middle period and then pick them back up just for the weekend, depending on what your product is.
Interesting. Okay. And so that, and again, the conversion rate was typically 12.5%. So that went up, and then it did drop below that, that average there, but orders up quite significantly, nearly triple, there. So actually talking to that, like what have you noticed in terms of brands that this deal event so far has, who it's benefited the most so far?
Yeah, so premium brands have definitely benefited the most. And what we mean by premium brands is a product that has high pricing inside a niche with, products that are lower priced. Obviously, the main reason for that is that people are not interested in saving $2 on something. But if they can buy a $100 product and save, $20, they're much more interested in saving that amount of money. And so we've seen that premium brands that have discounts, are benefiting a lot more. In some examples, we've seen 6x. In some examples, we've seen 10x, and even more than that for those premium brands. So it's a really big event for those guys, and it goes for a long time. So they really cash in for that period.
Excellent. Okay, so that's some of the key stats, and then. So as as people listening to this, if they listen to it on the Tuesday, what's it going to be, the 26th, just heading into the latter part of the deal event, given what we've got here, what we can see, what are the learnings that people need to take into the weekend?
Yeah, I think if you're a premium brand, your strategy would be slightly different. I think you'd keep your ads going strong through this whole period, all the way through to the weekend. If you're a non-premium brand, during this sort of mid-period, I would be reducing my bids and reducing my spend to basically save my budget for the end of the event. And I think that's where you're going to benefit the most. And so... so that's sort of what I do. Our expectation is that the Friday, which is the 29th, will be a big day. We think the weekend will also be big. Not as big as the Friday. We think the Saturday and Sunday won't be as big as the Friday, but then we think the December 2nd, which is the last day of the event, will also be a big day. So we expect Friday and Monday to be the two biggest days. And then we expect, higher volume than what we're seeing at the moment, but not as high volume as that Friday and that Monday on the weekend, on the Saturday and Sunday.
Do you expect it to be similar to the first day of the event, the 19th, or what do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We've never done a deal event this way. I don't think it will eclipse the first day, but I think it'll be very close. The Friday will be very close, and the Monday will be very close as well. But I don't think it'll eclipse the first day. Yeah, and that's what we've seen historically. That they don't. So, but again, this is something new in the sense that we haven't seen an event this long.
Yeah, a two week deal event. Okay, well, no, that's very interesting there. So basically, keep some cash at the ready for Friday and the last day, and and so obviously looking at conversion rates there, but of that, nothing like a deadline to get people to act. The only other thing is, there will be a lot more competing deals going on different platforms. The 19th, it was a bit more of a competition-free zone, you could say. But now everyone is promoting Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals, so that'll be interesting. Anyway, okay, Zeb, how about we'll wrap it up there, and you can get back out on the pitch and with the rest of the Cell Global team, and have a great second half, and we'll report back post-event once all the data and attributions come through, and we'll give you a full rundown of what we've noticed, and then you can carry that learning through to future deal events. And also, post this event, and as we look ahead to 2025, it is a really good time to just review your Amazon advertising setup and strategy. And we do have a Amazon Ad Spotlight audit that is completed by Sebastian, and it is super granular, very detailed, and we're finding tremendous amounts of opportunity for brands, whether it's reducing wasted spend, identifying new opportunities, and we're seeing a lot of fast growth. So if you are serious about taking your Amazon ads to the next level in 2025, then go to Amazon. Go to Go Sell Global at least anyway. So that's gocellglobal.com, and then you'll see management for Amazon ads. And read that page there. There's a lot of, there's a video from Seb going through what we cover. There's example reports. There's some case studies there, and then you can book a call at a time that's going to suit for you and Seb. So seriously encourage you to do that. It's a great exercise. People have really valued that as a way to review what's actually going on, so you can set up to win in 2025. All right. Thanks very much, and thanks again, Seb. Appreciate it, and great work, and keep it up over the next week and a bit. All right.
Thanks, guys.
All the best.
Thanks, Hamish.